Greetings, fans and followers from all over this room. Today I'd like to get away from the accordion stuff and the grammar stuff just for a short time and do a piece on mythology, contemporary mythology. So I want to make a point, and to make that point I want to use a syllogism, okay? A syllogism. In the realm of logic and reasoning, a syllogism, roughly speaking, is an argument in which a conclusion is inferred from two premises. Premises, it's hard to say. It's an argument in which a conclusion is inferred from two premises, okay? Excuse me. Now, you have the two premises, premise 1, premise 2, and you draw a conclusion, okay? In premise 1, you have a middle term and a major term. In premise 2, you have a minor term and a middle term. This is called a middle term in some schools of thought because it appears in both of the premises, okay? And then ultimately, your major and minor term will end up in your conclusion if you do it right, okay? So, as an example, in this premise, all men are mortal. This is hard for me to see. And in this premise, James is a man. So the conclusion would be James is mortal. Okay, James, your minor term, which would be like, you could call it a subject term, is in your conclusion. And your major term here, you could call it a predicate term, is in your conclusion also. So you see you have a formula here, and we followed it. All men are mortal. James is a man. James is mortal. So that's how we got there. So the syllogism, or argument, is the tool that we'll use to help me make my point. And my point is this. I call it, hold on, I'm using my handy chart. I call it the myth of ownership. The myth of ownership. Now, I don't know how it is in other countries. I've only ever been to one other country. They pronounce it Canada. Down here we say Canada. But anyway, so I haven't been to other countries. My wife has. She's been to Ireland and I think Canada. But the point is, I don't know how it is in other countries, but in this country, I say that we cannot own anything of value. We basically can't own anything that's slightly valuable. Okay? So to prove that, let's use our tool. Let's use the syllogism. Okay? Now, syllogism number 1, we have our premise number 1. Okay? We have our premise. All right? The premise is a product subject to a lien cannot be owned. A product subject to a lien cannot be owned. Generally speaking, this is true. We don't need to be political or religious or goofy here. It's a basic principle or a basic known fact, okay? We don't need to get weird on that. Now, premise number 2. Premise number 2, right? A tax product is a product subject to a lien. A tax product essentially is a product subject to a lien. In other words, here in America, like I said, I don't know other countries, we have to have a license to drive a car, a license to drive a boat. We have to have licenses on this and that and almost everything. We have taxes on property, and those taxes never go away. They're never going to rescind the tax law. They're not going to take the taxes away. They're never going to go away. Once they're imposed on us, they don't take them away. So we can safely draw a conclusion then, all right, from our two premises. A taxed product cannot be owned. A taxed product here in America cannot fully, categorically, exclusively, absolutely be owned. It can't. Okay? Now, we take that conclusion from our first syllogism and we use that as the premise for our second syllogism. Okay? That would be premise number 1 in our second syllogism. All right? And that is a taxed product cannot be owned. Now, we move to our second premise in the second syllogism. I know this is low technology, please forgive me. If you've seen my other videos, you know how I operate. Premise number 2, a product of value is a taxed product. A product of value, anything here in America that has any value is expensive or has great value or has great usefulness or is critical to functioning in life. Well, it's taxed. There's a tax on it. And sometimes the tax is ongoing, progressive. It just, every year you get taxed on it. They never stop taxing you. So we can say then, we can say safely, our conclusion, all right, a product of value cannot be owned. That's our second syllogism, gives us this conclusion. It gives us this. A product of value cannot be categorically owned. And that's that. You can say, oh no, I have all this money, I have all this stuff, I have this $500,000 house, and I have a Mercedes, and I have a Tesla car, and all my children are going to college, and I'm just this great guy with all this money. I actually personally know several people who have at least $1 million in equity and investments and such, and they think they own things. They think they own their houses, they think they own their cars. They don't own a damn thing. They don't own anything. So basically we took a syllogism, all right, we drew a conclusion. It's pretty sound, it's pretty solid. We moved that conclusion down, used it as a premise in our second syllogism. We added a premise, we got another conclusion, and we've shown that the myth of ownership is just that. It's a myth. I don't know who owns anything. Maybe the Queen of England owns America. Maybe the Pope in the Vatican owns America. Who knows? Maybe no one owns it. But the thing is, ownership is a myth. You can buy junk or you can buy stuff that's quickly consumed, almost immediately consumed, like your groceries. And even they're taxed. They're initially taxed. But all you're going to do is eat them and poop them out. It's momentary value. And that's it. Thanks for being patient. And I just want to take a break from the accordion and grammar and talk about things that people rarely think about. Things that they think are true and they are not. Good night.